Right then, Wednesday's English lesson. So quite short, brief lesson today. We're going to read through pages 12 and 13 today. And I told you where you'll find it if you've got the hard copy of the book. Again, the pictures of these will also be on the webpage for you to read at your own pace as well. I will read them to you in a moment. And you want to read this through a couple of times as well, not just once. And what we're going to do today is we're going to collect some words and phrases that you find interesting, make you ask questions, or that you think are powerful uses of vocabulary. You will notice as well that this version of Beowulf, there is a lot of alliteration in there, and there's lots of really good bits of vocabulary. So you will definitely want to be magpieing lots of these for this whole unit of work. But there will also be lots of words that you might not know the meaning of, and you might have to look some up. Again, obviously it's a little bit hard as we are not all in class together, but just bear that in mind. There are some bits of vocabulary that you need to look up, or it would have to be discussed. But don't worry too much about those for now. So after we've read pages 12 and 13, and you've collected your words and phrases, you can also afterwards think of your own alliterative phrases to describe Grendel. So they're going to be the two things that you're going to be doing today. So we'll have a little read of pages 12 and 13, which are here. Okay, so if you remember the page before this, on page 10, we were introduced to Grendel. So now this is a bit more. The night Grendel struck was the darkest night of all. He waited until Hrothgar had gone to his bed, until only the lords who nightly guarded Heorot were left. They were fast asleep when he pounced. He was upon them so suddenly and with such violence and fury that none could escape the terrible slaughter. 30 lords he murdered in his bloodlust, as savage and swift as his death-dealing, as a maddened fox in a chicken hut. He left not one of them alive, but carried them off home to his lair to feast on their blooded corpses at his leisure. Only when day broke did Hrothgar and his warriors discover the dreadful evidence of the Holocaust at Heorot. Gone now were the laughter and the music. Hrothgar sat silent in his grief and despair. His warriors too mourned and lamented the loss of their friends and brothers in arms. All were stunned at the merciless cruelty of this fatal fiend of the darkness. But the horrors were not yet over, for the next night Grendel came again, stalking over the foggy moors and down through the forest towards Heorot. The warriors had barricaded themselves in this time and believed they must be safe. They could not have known that against this hellish monster, all such defences would be useless. In a frenzy of hate, Grendel burst in and slaughtered everyone he found there, gorging himself at will. He spared no one. From that night on, no one, not even Hrothgar, dared sleep again in Heorot. And so the great mead hall stood empty and stayed empty. Grendel the monster now ruled in Denmark, a rule of terror that haunted Hrothgar and all his people, wherever they lived, men, women, and children alike. For 12 long winters, Grendel warred unceasingly on the Danes, picking his blood victims at random, the innocent and the sick too, children and newborn babes. He was utterly without mercy. Again and again he came to his killing ground, always unseen in the black of night. No plan Hrothgar and the council thanes devised could protect them from his fury. No prayers to the Almighty, no sacrifices to ancient heathen gods. Anywhere he struck, any farmstead, any cottage, anywhere and everywhere. Nothing could put an end to these endless terror raids. A great and terrible grief darkened the land, banishing all happiness, all hope. Even the noble Hrothgar sat sunk in sorrow. Deep in his despair, the Danish king could see no reprieve from this hideous nightmare visited so often upon his people by this fearful monster. Okay, we're not going to read that little last paragraph. So you might want to go back and have another reread of that. But basically, like, to summarize what we have just read in these two sections, we are introduced a little bit more to Grendel. Grendel has started attacking Heorot and killing lots of people, basically. And he's a very unhappy creature by the sounds of it. And he did not like all that happiness that he was hearing. And the people of Heorot were trying to save themselves, but whatever they did, it didn't work. And all the people were obviously feeling very sad, very down about everything. Hrothgar as well, he didn't know what to do. And this continued for 12 years. Grendel kept doing all of this to the people of Denmark. And that's basically it so far. So go back now, collect some words and phrases that you find interesting, make you ask questions. There's a few things in there. I don't want to, again, say too much that's going to spoil anything, but there's some few little things get mentioned in those 2 pages that give you a little bit of a hint as to why Grendel does what it does. And yeah, there might just be some things that you're not really sure about. But also there are some really good, powerful uses of vocabulary in there and some really great alliterative phrases. But try and think of some of your own as well. Think about those different synonyms for what you might describe Grendel as. It sort of reminds me a little bit of when we did holes back in September, October, and we came up with a list of synonyms to describe the lizards. So we called them beasts, monsters, predators, things like that. You might want to come up with some similar synonyms for Grendel. We get the idea that Grendel is some kind of beast of some sort. So again, maybe thinking about that might help you come up with some alliterative phrases. But again, when you collect the words, vocabulary, there's some great examples in here that you might want to magpie at some point. And again, some really great choices of description in there. Like gorging down here, gorging himself. That's a really great word. The warriors barricaded themselves. Think, what does it mean to barricade yourself? There's another one over in here that I liked. I can remind it. Also, like the word the Almighty. So just, do you know what that means here? No prayers to the Almighty. Who are they talking about there? Again, there's loads of great ones in here. Yeah, hideous nightmare, fearful monster. Again, lots of great words in here.